Quick note to get us started. Some clown buggered up the scheduling for this episode and had it due to come out on the 16th of November 2021. That clown was in fact me. So we've adjusted that, and here's this week's episode. I'll leave it at that. Episode 238. Seeds, the Original Circular Economy. This is the Change Underground for the week ending 16th of November 2020. I'm your host, John Moore. Decarbonise the air, recarbonise the soil. Seeds are very much on my mind at present. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere, you're collecting or have collected seeds from last summer, and in the Southern Hemisphere, you're planting or already have. I've spent the day modifying a chain of cups on a garlic planter to ensure that the cups will take the sweet corn seeds and won't fall through the holes. The bigger cups on a different chain will keep to pick up the garlic cloves from the hopper next autumn when we sow garlic. The seeds are ready, the epoxy is drying, and rain is due in a couple of days. So hopefully everything will align, which would make a first in 2020, I guess. We are the world's most optimistic people, we who plant seeds. There is much more to this than just seed in, food out. I'm a bit different. I get excited when a chook goes broody, so planting seeds is the great miracle of life on this planet every time I sow. But there is something especially magic about maize seeds. They've always fascinated me. The life cycle and growth habits are so different with maize from everything else I plant. And it's been a fascination from childhood. Those first leaves pushing through the mulch caused my heart to beat a little bit more quickly. The tassels and the silks, where I can actually see, to a point, the act of pollination, really gobsmacks me. I always shake the stalks to watch the pollen spread, and I feel the world is as it should be when we've gotten to this stage. Unwrapping a little bit too early each year, the very first ear of corn to see if it's ready, is one of life's little joys. The same excitement I feel when lifting the straw around the potatoes to discover the harvest for the year. All these good things hidden from view, but giving clues as the wheel of the year turns. We owe a debt of gratitude to the seed savers, the variety makers, and the seed hunters. A huge variety of seeds disappeared from this planet in the 20th century as the wonders of hybridisation and industrial agriculture brought miracle new varieties, allegedly. They did, of course, starve off starvation in some places, sometimes. The loss, though, is almost incalculable. In small fields, in attic chests, and among the contrarians, some of these seeds have survived. A little bit like the hobby farmers saving rare breeds of sheep. A novelty can be a thing worth saving for its own actual novelty. Podcast footnote. When I say hobby farmer, a little bit of sick comes to the back of my throat. It's a term of derision given small landholders by real estate agents and the 10,000 acre types. The small holder is more likely to experiment, to be biodiverse and have a greater percentage of trees on their block than the plough from fence line to fence line crowd. Now, the person with 5 acres and a bloody ride-on mower who sprays fence lines with glyphosate and spends their entire weekend mowing does not fall into this group of smallholders. To my mind, they are just suburbanites with too much land. Rant and podcast footnote over. There are seed companies out there with huge numbers of seed varieties, and we should support them, I believe. But the 20th century lost seeds are a matter of great pain. Now, I've mentioned seed banks before. Svalbard in Norway is the big one at the moment. And the St. Petersburg Pavlovsk experimental station started by Nikolai Vavilov, who died in Stalin's gulags, is another place to which we owe much as a species and as gardeners. Vavilov decided it would be useful to collect seed from the apparent birthplaces of commercial crops. The Pavlovsk station was opened in 1924. By the outbreak of the Second World War, it had collections of wheat, barley, rice and other seeds and fruit, soft and tree fruit. And in those days, St. Petersburg was known as Leningrad. And during World War II, Leningrad was under siege for 900 days. Food shortages, hunger, starvation and death all come with sieges, and especially long sieges. Yet the research staff at the Pavlovsk experimental station protected their seed collections, some dying of starvation surrounded by bags of cereal seeds. This blows my mind, and I think behooves us to treat each seed we touch, from the tiniest strawberry seed to the biggest ones we plant, with a certain reverence. They carry the history of humans moving out of Africa and the history of those who remain behind. They contain the millions of selection decisions across time. Decisions made for the most part before we had any idea of genetics. And here we are with seeds aplenty, with biodiversity in our hands. It is a useful thing to pause before planting and contemplate the eons of evolution which contributed to the packets of genetic information in my hand that will feed me, mine and others. This is the wonder of this planet. With some water, sun, soil and time, we can multiply the number of seeds we hold in our hands exponentially. It is truly awe-inspiring, or at least I find it so. So maybe pause next time before you plant and contemplate the wonders of the seeds in your hands, the shared humanity, the interconnections with nature, the poetry of existence in those tiny packets of genetic information. And of course, to remember to decarbonise the air and recarbonise the soil. Thank you all for listening. I'll be back next week.